Welcome in, Dween Nation. We are the Dween Sports Podcast, and we are just about to get started. But before we do, we'd love if you could like, comment, subscribe, and share so we can continue to be your fantasy sports podcast. Thanks for being part of Dween Nation, and enjoy the show. Welcome in, Dween Nation. This is your host, Justin Pies, alongside Genoa Agudelo, and this episode is super exciting because in the spirit of Marvel, we wanted to discuss our Fantastic Four players for 2025. This is relating to breakout players. You know, the Fantastic Four movie just came onto the scene, and we're looking for players who maybe haven't had that high of performance, or it hasn't been in a while, and we're ready to pick them in drafts, and we think that their current ADP is too low and that they're going to finish much higher than that. But before we discuss that, how you doing, my brother?
Yo, Dween Nation. Justin, I'm excited. We're just a week and a couple days away from the season kicking off. I'm so excited, and I know a lot of you guys may have already drafted your leagues, as well as Justin and I. We had a great, fun weekend drafting our leagues, and it's so exciting to now be around the corner where fantasy football is going to be underway.
Yeah, man. And this episode is the most fun because I feel like when you go and win your fantasy football championships, you remember those players that you picked that were somewhat later than, not the top guys. Now, sometimes those top guys obviously are a pivotal part of your championship winning team. But like, for example, I'll always remember in our big league, the championship I won with Chris Godwin. He was a breakout that year, and I believe it was 2019. But players like that, that's who we're discussing today. But also another thing we want to discuss, because it was cut day today, all NFL teams had to cut down to 53-man rosters. But some notable names that got cut. I mean, we saw MVS get cut from the Seahawks. We saw Robert Woods get cut from the Steelers, Hunter Renfrow from the Panthers, Michael Gallup from the Commanders. We saw that trade, obviously, with Kenyon Green, the offensive lineman from Houston, go to Philly, but he got cut. What are some other ones here? Obviously, Shiloh Sanders was the story after his fight. We had Desmond Watson, who came in as the heaviest person in NFL history at 449 pounds. He unfortunately did not make the team. But just kind of all around, I mean, some names that you kind of have forgotten about: Robbie Chosen, Cam Akers, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. But fortunately, none that obviously are affecting kind of our fantasy ranking. Isn't it funny just to see kind of the changes in 53-man rosters and maybe like somewhat stars of the past who are no longer, have that shine anymore?
Yeah, one name that comes to mind is Michael Gallup. And Robbie Chosen, I remember when he was once went by Robbie Anderson. So one thing that does suck, I root for the Sanders family a lot. So it sucks that Shiloh, he got into that incident. It was like a little fight during that last game. And then that was his, ending in Tampa. Hopefully he can find a home along the way, and he can be a great defensive player, hopefully someday.
Yeah, but that was kind of the news of today with the cuts for all 32 teams to cut to 53-man rosters. But we'll jump past that, and we'll dive into our breakouts, our Fantastic Four players for 2025. And I'll start us off. I have J.J. McCarthy of the Minnesota Vikings, and I just think that simply enough, you have such a great outlet McCarthy has with this Vikings team. It starts to me with the play caller. Kevin O'Connell is a top 5 play caller in the NFL. He has been able to work with somewhat mediocre to above average quarterbacks, Sam Darnold, Kirk Cousins, even Josh Dobbs and Nick Mullins had flashes in his system. And that gets me excited about a first-round talent, a national champion. Now, I know he didn't have to throw the ball a ton at Michigan, but that's just kind of the scheme there with, Jim Harbaugh. They had Donovan Edwards, they had Blake Corum running the ball a lot. They had a really good defense. So, yes, the pedigree of his college career, obviously he was a winner, but it wasn't through the air too much. I still think he's a really talented passer. And then, of course, what I haven't mentioned is the outlet he has, the skill position players he has with Jay Jettas, Jordan Addison. I know he's missing a few games, but when he comes back, TJ Hawkinson, the running backs I think are solid, and Jalen Naylor's even like a flyer, sleeper kind of guy. But I'm just a big fan of J.J. McCarthy in 2025. And if you look at his ADP, I believe he's going at like quarterback 18 in fantasy. Definitely a guy that's kind of being drafted at the very end of drafts or not drafted at all. That's why I think he's going to rise tremendously. And if Sam Darnold can turn in a quarterback 8 season, I think J.J. McCarthy has the ability to be a top 12 quarterback.
Yeah, Justin. Going into this offseason, I was very just skeptical and just a little pessimistic about JJ McCarthy. But now as training camp is starting to wrap up, kind of the offseason, the preseason is starting to already wrapped up. I'm starting to warm up to it a little bit now. This is kind of reality, and it's something that okay, if you pick a guy like Justin Jefferson, like I did in the Elite League, I also picked up TJ Hawkinson in our Elite League, and it's kind of like, well, you know what? I'm going to have to trust McCarthy. And I feel like, I actually wanted to pick McCarthy in that same league, but he got already picked in already in like the 10th round already. I wanted to get McCarthy. And you know what? Now that I think about it, I do remember him being somewhat of a pretty good rushing quarterback when he was at the University of Michigan. So I think that he has some good upside there with his own legs. And I do think that, once Jefferson's back, it looks like he's going to be ready week 1. Jalen Naylor, who's questionable, he should be back. What about this Ty Felton guy who's been kind of at the wide receiver 3 position as Jordan Addison is suspended? So I'm excited to see how he develops these other targets there. Because obviously we know Jetta is going to be good. We know that Jordan Addison is going to be good. But who else is McCarthy going to be able to look for, right? Is he going to be able to find Hawkinson and have him be a great tight end? So I'm very excited to see. That's one of the keys that I'm looking forward to in this NFL season. McCarthy has been given the keys to this Lamborghini of an offense. So I'm excited to see how it plays out. Is he going to be a guy that's going to be able to at least pass for 220 to 250 a game? Like, that's something very exciting for me to watch. And you know what? If you're able to pick him and stash him, I do think by like week 5 or 6, he should have everything down. Jefferson should be healthy. Naylor should be there healthy. Addison will be back from his suspension. So I'm very excited to see what he does.
I think that was actually perfect advice that I didn't mention is he is kind of a guy right now that you should stash, should be your quarterback 2. I'm not confident going into week 1. He goes into Chicago too, which is not a great matchup. But a perfect guy that maybe by week 6 or 7 could really come into form. So I agree with that there. We'll move to your quarterback, Breakout, and Justin Fields.
Yeah, Justin, another quarterback that I love in his rushing ability. I'm also one of those guys, one of the few guys that don't really dislike Justin Fields. In fact, I love Justin Fields. I loved him at the University of Ohio State. I know he had a stint in Georgia, if I'm not mistaken, for just a little bit. Then he went to Ohio State, makes the national championship. I want to say it was against Mac Jones, Devontae Smith, Alabama team in 2020 or 21, one of those years. And they fell short. Alabama was just a powerhouse, but I still was a fan. I loved him in Chicago. Justin, he was a part of one of the worst coaching staffs ever, and Matt Eberflus, and still as a quarterback was able to rush for 1,000 yards. Like, yeah, we see that out of Lamar, but Lamar is such an elite player, won a Heisman, and is part of a great organization in Baltimore. But here in Chicago, I was very impressed that, Justin Fields was able to do that. And he had some bumps and bruises along the way. Last year, he went to Pittsburgh, and I thought he looked great. I know that Mike Tomlin was kind of conflicted of maybe starting Russell Wilson because he's the veteran with the Super Bowl championship. But still, I'm still a believer in Justin Fields. I love that he's such an elite rushing quarterback. I think along with, Lamar Jackson, maybe a Josh Allen, a Kyler Murray along the lines. I think Justin Fields does belong to have his name in the hat at least. I understand if you don't pick him, but I do understand that, he's in a new coaching staff. I love what he has in New York. He has Garrett Wilson to throw it to. I am a big fan that no one's talking about is Mason Taylor, their tight end out of LSU. I want to see what they're able to do with Josh Reynolds and Alan Lazard. They're listed as their wide receivers 2 and 3. I'm not really sure where Malachi Corley. Maybe he's not on the team. He got cut actually. I'm just learning that now. I'm looking at the depth chart. I don't know if you remember Tyler Johnson from Tampa a few years ago. He's the wide receiver 3 or 4. So I'm excited to see what he's able to do with this, offense. Maybe he can get some dump off passes to Breece Hall or Braylon Allen. But other than that, I'm very excited for Justin Fields that he's finally found his home, and he will be a breakout player with the Jets.
I love it. He was on my sleepers list in our sleeper episode. So I'm completely on board with you on the high train for Justin Fields. His ability on the ground as a rushing quarterback is so valuable in fantasy football. It makes him, to me, kind of like a guaranteed top 12 guy, even if he's a bad quarterback, because the rushing upside is going to keep a stable floor for him. But if he takes any step forward, or, Garrett Wilson has, steps up as well, or one of those, secondary or tertiary pieces step up as well, he could be a top 8 guy even. Like, I think he has that ability. Obviously, I think we brought it up ad nauseum, though, over the offseason. in the 6 starts he had with Pittsburgh last year, he was the quarterback 6. And nobody really looks at that time in Pittsburgh as a big fantasy outpour from Justin Fields. And that could be the same thing here, and he could be better because his play caller was Arthur Smith, who just runs the ball like crazy. Has never really featured a quarterback. I mean, yeah, he tried it with Desmond Ridder and he tried it with Tannehill, but they never were like too great. Obviously Tannehill was better than Ridder, but anyway, I think Fields is just set up for a really good season with his college teammate. I just love it. So I agree with you there. We'll move to running back for me, which is Javonte Williams of the Dallas Cowboys. And yes, for me, obviously this entire offseason, all of our mock drafts, I have drafted Javonte Williams to my team because he's on a good offense, what I think will be a top 10 offense at the end of the year. And he's, to me, he's on an island by himself because you got Miles Sanders. He's toast to me. You got Jayden Blue. He just suffered an ankle sprain that I think he will actually miss the first week or two. So that sets him back. And then Phil Maffa, their next running back, I think is going to miss the entire season or was put on IR today. So he's really by himself. The O-line is subpar nowadays, unlike obviously years ago. But the stat I'll always come around to is over the last 11 seasons, the Dallas Cowboys have featured a top 23 running back in fantasy football. And Javonte, if I look right here, is currently going at RB 40s. Currently going 17 RB spots, lower than where the lowest Dallas Cowboys running back has finished. So I think he's just in line to be great. And what hurts me the most is that in our 2 biggest leagues, somebody decided to snipe me in the draft, and I didn't get Javonte in either of them. But I guess I'll just keep with this pick here, where I think he's just going to finish way higher than expectations on an offense that I think is going to be top 10.
Yeah, Justin, I'm very hesitant to pick Javonte Williams. However, if you can get him in the 8th or 9th round, I don't think it's too bad if he falls that low. Maybe the 7th. I don't know. He still hasn't hit 5 or more rushing touchdowns in his career. I know he tore his ACL. I want to say, was it his rookie or his second year?
Yeah.
I'm looking at the depth chart for Dallas. It does look promising, right? So you did mention that Jayden Blue is injured, as well as Miles Sanders. Phil Maffa, I think he is going to be on IR for week 1. Jayden Blue is participating Monday in practice, but he does have an ankle injury, and he is a rookie. So I don't know if he's going to be able to get much touches those first couple weeks, especially week 1 in Philly against the champs. And then Miles Sanders, I don't think he played this last Friday against the Falcons, but he does have a shoulder injury, and he is questionable. As well, he hasn't really been good at all since he left Philly. So, you know what? I think you're right. Javonte Williams is on an island by himself. I also am seeing that they waived Deuce Vaughn, who I really like, my man out of Kansas State. I kind of wish he got a chance. He never really gotten a chance the last couple of years with Zeke returning, and then Dowdle, and I know Pollard a few years ago as well. He just never had a shot, and it sucks. I wish hopefully they can bring him back. I know some teams, they usually cut or waive a player and then them bringing him back just a week or so later. But hopefully Deuce Vaughn can get his opportunity. I just feel like they need some fresh legs in this backfield. I think they need a power back. Like they're gonna miss Rico Dowdle not being there, Justin. And I think that, I love Williams. I want to believe in him. I just think it's gonna wait a couple weeks for him to really pop off. Maybe like week 4 or 5. I just think this Dallas offense is gonna come out this year just slinging. And I think, hopefully I really hope, because I have Dak in our main league, I really hope they can get Javonte involved so that way defenses are not going to be acclimated to the passing attack of Dallas. But let's see. I'm excited to see how Dallas goes about this. But Justin, I'm just hoping that they get a power back. Maybe it'll help out Javonte Williams.
Hey, and honestly, if they get Javonte involved, he is actually a very, very capable pass-catching running back. I mean, last year he was literally 5th in targets at the running back position. So he can do it. He can help in that regard. And I think he just has the opportunity. Obviously last year he looked really, really bad. And honestly, their schedule out the gate is not the prettiest. You play at Philadelphia, then you play the Giants, which are actually kind of a tough matchup now with that defensive line. Chicago's pretty solid. Then you get a good matchup with Green Bay, but then you go play the Jets. Actually, they were under average. But it's really those first kind of 3 weeks it's not easy for him. But I still think he's a great player this year. And we'll jump to your RB breakout of 2025 in Tank Bigsby.
Thanks, Bigsby, Justin. I love what I saw for that first part of the year. I think his value sort of diminished a little bit after Trevor Lawrence was done for the year. I just like what I saw out of Tanks Bigsby. I know he had a great game. I want to say it was in London against the Patriots. ETN was slated to be the number one guy, but no, not at all. Bigsby ended up the year with 766 rushing yards and 7 rushing touchdowns there, Justin. I feel like a lot of people are talking about Breakout Tootin as well. I think he's a guy that can be involved in the receiving opportunities, but something tells me, Justin, that two things can happen. Whether ETN gets traded in the middle of a season to a contending team or a team that may unfortunately be going through injuries, like ETN could be traded, or Bigsby. And I feel like either way, it's going to help Bigsby have a breakout year there, Justin. I mean, 760 yards rushing. He played 16 games, 7 touchdowns. I just think that he's going to be a guy that's going to be needed to be involved. And I'm not buying into the Tootin hype just yet because there are 3 running backs on this depth chart that are capable of leading their team. I know 2022, I want to say Jacksonville won their division, and it was behind the legs of Travis Etienne. And now ever since then, he's kind of fallen down, and maybe he might not be Liam Cohen's guy. Liam Cohen, obviously, I do see a lot of similarities between Etienne and Bucky Irvin, but I just feel like Tank Bigsby is a powerhouse. He's their goal line back that's going to be able to stack up fantasy points. And I feel like one of these running backs out of Etienne and Bigsby gets traded, and I feel like either or it'll benefit Bigsby and making him a breakout candidate this year for me, Justin.
I literally love everything you said, and you've completely convinced me now that is going to be the case this season. And actually, I feel like the way that this is going to play out, Jacksonville is going to feature Travis Etienne early in the season as their leader, and lead back. I won't say he'll get 80% of the carries, but he'll be kind of the guy that's mainly getting touches. But they have the view and the insight that they're going to move Etienne at some point in the season because he's the closest to his next contract as well. I think he's got 1 season left, maybe 2, but I think 1. So they're going to have to pay him, and I'm sure they don't want to do that. And they like Bashal Tootin. And I'm looking at the comparables here. I mean, Bashal Tootin is 5'9", 210, and Bucky Irving is 5'10", 195. So they're kind of the same build. So maybe what we're going to get is Tank Bigsby as the Rachaad White, and Tank Bigsby's a bigger player, and also a goal line back. So maybe he's like the goal line back version of Rachaad White, while Bashal Tootin is like Bucky Irving light, because I think Bucky Irving's a better running back coming out of college anyway. But I love what you laid out there. I do think that there's going to be a move. And I've actually heard some rumors around that maybe one of these guys get moved. And I think it would be ETN, and that would be huge for Tank Bigsby this season. So I definitely think he's worth the flyer. And he's going over 2 rounds after ETN. So definitely there's value there too. So I think that's great there. We'll jump to wide receiver, where I have Ricky Pearsall of the San Francisco 49ers. And I think obviously he's a first-round talent, so there's pedigree there. He's got they've invested in Ricky Pearsall so much, and if you look at this team, this roster, I mean, it to me is somewhat bare. It doesn't have the depth of previous seasons, and you have a team that you got Jawan Jennings, but he's hurt with a calf. I don't know if he's waiting out this new contract, but he's not practicing. Yes, you have George Kittle. Yes, you have Christian McCaffrey, but the number 1 wide receiver is Ricky Pearsall, hands down, and he's going much later than what I would expect a 49ers number 1 wide receiver to go as. And the 49ers, their recipe over the last 6 years has been 1 bad season, 1 good season, 1 injury-riddled season, another good season, and last year was a bad injury-riddled season. I think they all stepped back into place, and obviously Ricky Pearsall's rookie season was hurt because he got shot, and then there was an injury, but it really just set him back, and so his rookie season was kind of a wash. And I think this year he's going to step in to this offense as the wide receiver 1, and will probably get the most targets on the team, him and McCaffrey, I think. So I think that is smashing value, and a guy who's going to finish as a top 15, top 18 wide receiver.
Yeah, Justin, I really like what I'm seeing out of look, I want to say this. I'm not too reliant and trusting the 49ers this year, but one thing that remains constant that I One player that I would pick is Ricky Pearsall. I feel like he's definitely going to get a ton of targets here. Looking at this depth chart, which confirms it all, Juwan Jennings is currently questionable at the moment. Not really sure if he's going to play week 1. He does have a calf injury. And Shanahan's quote today was, "You never know with the calf." So that to me doesn't, speak confidence for Juwan Jennings' status for week 1. So that just leaves Ricky Pearsall, Jacob Cowing, and George Kittle, along with Sky Moore, who they just traded for. I think Brandon Ayuk is already ruled out. So I feel like Ricky Pearsall is definitely going to get a ton of targets in their week 1 matchup in Seattle. And I love the matchup there, Justin. I know that this offense does work wonders in some ways for their skill position players. So I like it a lot, Justin. I think that he's definitely going to be one of the consistent pieces of San Francisco. And then look what's being left behind, right? Obviously, you don't have Ayuk, you don't have Debo, and then you might not have Juwan Jennings. So that is a ton of target share there being left up in the air for this team. And so I love Ricky Pearsall, and I love Purdy to go give him a ton of targets.
Yeah, man. And I mean, have you seen that catch he had at Florida, the one-hander? The highlight reel of the century.
Yeah.
So he's got the skills. And I think he's in a great system with Kyle Shanahan. I know we've gone back and forth on the podcast of Kyle Shanahan's tendencies to be a choker in the playoffs, but we're playing fantasy football in the regular season, and so that's why I'm a fan of Ricky Pearsall. We'll jump to you though. Your wide receiver breakout of the season, Rome Odunze.
Justin, there's something about, the career of Caleb Williams that, yes, he wears number 18. It just reminds me a little bit of Peyton. He has this, I wouldn't say he's Peyton, but he has this arm. And I feel like a lot this year, they're going to get in a ton of shootouts. And I have this feeling that DJ Moore is going to be the receiver that kind of gets a little bit left out in the dust, right? Kind of like last year, right? Where Devontae Adams gets traded to New York and Garrett Wilson kind of got, he still had good games and all, but Rodgers was solely focused on, Devontae Adams, and I feel like that might be a thing this year where Caleb Williams has this arm. He's going to be in a ton of shootouts, and Rome Odunze is going to be the guy that he's going to be looking forward to. I mean, these are two guys that were in the same draft class. Rome Odunze was a standout at Washington State. And I just love that Caleb Williams he's got Ben Johnson. And I think he could be Rome Odunze can be their Amon-Ra St. Brown. Not to mention, a lot of teams defenses are going to be looking to stop a DJ Moore, right? And then they drafted Luther Burden, who might not be a spark off the bat, but I do like Colson Loveland that they drafted out of Michigan to be a guy that they can, get targets as well. And I feel like a lot of people are just going to ignore Rome Odunze. He's going to be able to get a lot of single coverage. He's going to be put in the slot. And I just love that he's going to get a ton of looks there. And I just love what I saw out of him. Kind of the ending of the year. He was getting targets, and he did finish the year with 700 yards receiving and 3 touchdowns. So I'm definitely loving those numbers to be pumped up. Not to mention, Keenan Allen was their second leading receiver with 700 yards and 7 touchdowns. He's now in Los Angeles rejoining the Chargers. So Rome Odunze moves up that depth chart. I do think that with Cole Kmet and Loveland being those 2 tight ends there, they're going to be kind of going in and out, Cole Kmet, Loveland. But I still think the thing that remains constant is Rome Odunze. He's going to get a ton of targets there, Justin. And Caleb Williams, with that arm, with Ben Johnson, is going to be looking to target, and he will get his targets. I think he will be just as good as Jason in Seattle. And I think that those 2 receivers are going to be having a similar finish on the year.
Interesting take there. I think that was the spiciest part of it. But I do agree with you that I really like Rome Odunze. I got him in our big league this season because I just think that, it feels like they're best friends. It feels like Caleb Williams and Rome Odunze are best friends. And you know what best friends want for each other? They want to be successful together. They want to make sure that each of them get fed. And I think Caleb Williams, as the leader and starting quarterback for the Bears, is going to want to do that. And Ben Johnson has already stated that Rome Odunze is going to be the lead outside guy. I don't know how much of the slot he's going to get, but he's the only guy that Ben Johnson's been confident in. Like Luther Burden has had multiple reports with, added like laziness on the field. Obviously, he was coming off an injury to start camp. And then DJ Moore last season looked like he just didn't want to play football, was taking plays off. And I really haven't heard anything from DJ Moore this year, this training camp. And I look at Odunze and DJ Moore kind of in the same light in fantasy, like same kind of range. Yet DJ Moore's going at pick 49 and Rome Odunze is going at pick 79. So there's the value for people there. And I just think that this Bears offense is going to take a step forward. I mean, it doesn't get much worse than Eberflus and Shane Waldron calling plays, to Ben Johnson, who I think might be the best offensive mind we've seen in a long time. I think that, Chicago's in line to be really, really good. I do think they do have a good amount of mouths to feed, but I like Odunze.
And lastly, he did score a touchdown in the preseason. So those are early signs for me that he's going to be getting involved. And I feel like I said, the Bears are going to be in a good amount of shootouts. Remember, Justin, that division is tough. They're the weakest team in that division with Minnesota, Green Bay, and Detroit. And so they're going to begin some wars with them. And I think Rome Odunze is going to be ending up with some good fantasy week finishes.
No, and that's another really good point. That division is stacked. There will not be a game where they can just take the night off. I mean, they're going to be playing crazy. And to me, though, another thing, those are all great teams, but they all kind of have beatable secondaries. I mean, the Lions, they did sign DJ Reed, which I do like that move there. But they can be beat in the secondary. They're much better at the line of scrimmage. Same goes for the Vikings. They still have Byron Murphy, but their defensive line is much better than their secondary. And then I even agree with that with Green Bay. I mean, they lost Jair Alexander, so that secondary is up for somebody to beat them. So I think that's really great. And I think Odunze is definitely a great pick for a breakout wide receiver. I'll jump to tight end breakout for myself, and that is Tyler Warren of the Indianapolis Colts. I mean, if you look at this guy, he was an absolute beast and wild card and a joker for the Penn State Nittany Lions for just about his entire time there. I mean, he was playing all around the field and was their main guy. And now he joins a Colts team where, to me, he's already the main guy. And in the preseason, we've seen that. He's been getting utilized at a big extent. And I just think that, with the Colts, man, with Daniel Jones, when we saw Daniel Jones last year with the New York Giants, he was hyper-targeting Malik Neighbors, and it was just going to neighbors, to neighbors, to neighbors. Now, I'm not saying that Tyler Warren is of the likes of Malik Neighbors. Definitely would not be saying that. But Daniel Jones, I think, is going to lock in on a guy on this Colts pass-catching room. And Josh Downs is injured. Alec Pierce is just a deep threat. Michael Pittman, he's a fine wide receiver, I guess. But Tyler Warren is just going to be that piece for them. They drafted him in the first round. And I brought it up last time I talked about Tyler Warren, but we're on a 2-year streak of rookie tight ends being the top tight end in football. I don't think that Colston Loveland has that ability with the how crowded it is there in Chicago. And if I got to pick a guy that I think could break out and be a top 5 tight end at the end of the year, I think it's Tyler Warren. I mean, you're looking at kind of similar situations for each team. I mean, like last year for Brock Bowers, the Raiders were not supposed to be a good team. He became the number 1 target. There was a big quarterback battle in training camp, Aiden O'Connell and Gardner Minshew, which is really, really bad. And then you look at the Colts this year, first-round draft capital, a quarterback battle in training camp. You get Daniel Jones, and although there's a lot of Daniel Jones hate, and rightfully so, he's not been a good quarterback in the NFL, he's better than Aiden O'Connell or Gardner Minshew, and that's why I'm a fan of Tyler Warren. And Shane Steichen, too. One last thing. Shane Steichen, obviously his Colts tenure has been really bad, and he hasn't had any really good tight end options, but when he was in Philadelphia in 2022, Dallas Goedert was a top 7 tight end in the year he was the offensive coordinator. So Tyler Warren, I think, is set up for success this year.
Yeah, Justin. You know what? Indianapolis is due for a star tight end. Looking at their depth chart here, Mo Alley Cox is their second tight end. And I feel like he's been there since Andrew Luck was a rookie, Justin. I mean, literally, they haven't had a star tight end since like Dallas Clark in the years of Peyton Manning. And I feel like, Justin, that streak of rookie tight ends being top performers in fantasy, that is going to go on for the next couple of years. It's rather going to be down to Tyler Warren, my guy Mason Taylor with the Jets, or Colston Loveland. He might have some battle with Cole Kmet, but I love Warren. I think he's got the best shot, to be honest. No one knows about him. Week 1, he's home against Miami. No one is scared of the Dolphins defense. And I think he's going to be able to ball out. And you know what? Daniel Jones is going to be figuring things out week 1. And hey, if it doesn't work out, I still like AR, who can't really throw it far, can have some dumb pop passes to Tyler Warren. And Justin, you know what? I love it. I love it. I love it. There's no competition. There's not even an alpha number 1 wide receiver. For example, Trey McBride, he plays for Arizona, but there's still an alpha in Marvin Harrison, right? And so here in Indianapolis, like, yeah, we like Pittman, but he still has some time to prove himself as a flashy wide receiver. And Tyler Warren, you can make the claim that, hey, he is the number one target, the number one pass catcher for the Colts. And so I really like it, Justin. I think the streak lives on.
Yeah, yeah, I love what I'm hearing there, and I think that we're lined up for another rookie tight end breakout top performance. It continues to keep showing up. I do like the Mason Taylor shout out as well. I think he's definitely worthy of somewhat of a breakout. Probably not to the level I'm expecting Tyler Warren. Um, but yeah, I like it a lot. We'll move to the last player we're going to discuss today. Your tight end breakout of 2025, and Evan Ingram.
Justin, I love it. I wouldn't say he's built like Jimmy Graham, but he's got some shades of speed of Jimmy Graham. And hey, I know Sean Payton, who coached Jimmy Graham, is loving this right now. Evan Ingram, he had a good year. I want to say it was in 2022. It was with Jacksonville. I know you mentioned that, two of the last couple seasons, he was one of the leading scoring tight ends in fantasy football there. And I do love him in this offense. I think, last year, I don't really think Denver had a tight end really to go after. I want to say, no, it wasn't Noah Fant. There was just a couple other, was it Adam Trotman, I think, that was getting some, but I think his talent is not compared to Evan Ingram. Evan Ingram has some juice left to him. And I think in the Sean Payton offense, it's going to work wonders. I know that second year for Bo Nix, second year for Sean Payton in Denver. I just think that they have a whole playbook just specifically for Evan Ingram, and it just screams absolutely gold in Denver. And I just love the schedule for him. I mean, week 1, Tennessee, week 2, Indianapolis. They go to LA and play the Chargers week 3, Cincinnati week 4 on prime time. I just love this a lot. Like the schedule is beautiful for me. I think that the depth chart, there's not too many number ones there. Obviously, you have Cortland Sutton there. You have Marvin Mims, who could be good, Troy Franklin, but they don't really have much wide receivers in their second depth chart. And I just feel like Adam Trotman isn't going to be much on the field. And it's going to be all Evan Ingram, dump off passes, red zone passes. He can even go long or take a pass outside of 50, 60 yards and score just, and it is all perfect for Evan Ingram. In fact, I feel like for tight ends, it's not being talked about enough. When you talk about the tight ends, yes, there's Bowers, McBride, Laporta, maybe an Andrews, but I think that Evan Ingram should be right there, at least top 7, just because of the offense, the quarterback, and what he could do in his offense.
No, I think you make some really good points here. I mean, yeah, Sean Payton has that history of having a really good tight end, especially Jimmy Graham in the past. And people will say, yeah, in your stint in Denver, you had really crappy tight end play, but you're right. He's had no tight ends to really work with. Adam Troutman, Lucas Kroll, Greg Dulcich, Nate Atkins, Chris Manhertz. That's the extent. That's the list of tight end talents he's had on his team, and I'm stressing it when I say talents. Like that is not what Evan Ingram is. Evan Ingram is way better than that. And yes, in that breakout season, I believe it was 2022 or 2023. He was second in targets at the tight end position. He was a beast. He was the tight end 2 on the season. He was phenomenal. And now you go from a Jacksonville offense that was poor even that time in a couple years ago. I mean, you join a Denver Broncos team which is ascending. They have a top offensive line. They have a good running game now, and he is the de facto number 2 option for Bo Nix this season. I know a lot of people are rising on Pat Bryant. I think he's really solid, and Marvin Mims too, even. But Evan Ingram's by far going to get more targets than those 2 guys. They traded Devon Vele. I think that helps even a little bit more because Vele was a wide receiver, but he was a big wide receiver, a guy that I think, obviously you have Sutton, who's a big wide receiver, but another big guy that you could throw up to in Evan Ingram, or even, use him in the short passing game. So I agree. I think he's great. He's going at tight end 9. I see him kind of in the same range as Kelsey and Mark Andrews and to personally, even Sam Laporta and Njoku. Like, I think he's kind of as good as those players, yet he's going near the back of those 5 guys I mentioned. And he's well worth that pickup in fantasy leagues. But Dween Nation, those are our breakouts, our fantastic 4 players for the 2025 NFL season. We still got more episodes because obviously next Thursday is kickoff for the NFL season. We need to discuss our my guys, our league winning players, our favorite picks and drafts. We got also our bold predictions episode. And then once we get into next week, we got to discuss week 1 itself. Good plays for week 1, bad plays for week 1. We got to throw in our Super Bowl picks and playoff picks. So we got so much, Dween Nation, on the way on this Dween Sports page, as well as the TikTok. We're literally posting every day. Also, like multiple posts today. So stay tuned to TikTok because we want to get information out to you guys as quick as possible to help you win your fantasy championships. But thank you guys for listening. And Genoa, send us out.
Yo, Dween Nation, thank you for watching. We're so excited for the season to start. So stick with us. Let us know. Comment down below what you think of these episodes, of this episode particularly. If there's any players that we missed, were we wrong, were we right? Let us know. We love you guys. Stay tuned. It's going to be such a fun season. It's going to be so much fun just talking football with you guys. But thank you guys for watching. We love you guys. And as always, peace.